now, wheel it out. I think so.
Maybe meet you inside?
Huh?
Want me to meet you inside?
Well, I don't need anything else from you.
Oh, okay.
Maybe it's a little more. There we are. You want to go a little bit more, Andrew?
You could probably slide it maybe. Or you can slide it.
He was sliding it, yeah.
I think that's good. Okay.
Oh yeah, finally. It's time.
It's time. Alright guys, thanks for joining in. Sorry it's been so long since I made a video. I do still have the car. It's currently down ever since I pulled the motor out. Actually last November. Sent that out to Max Power Automotive out of Lockport, Illinois. That took about 11 months. Finally got it back. As you can see right here, I got it all. It's actually called translucent purple. I mean, it's just absolutely beautiful. Absolutely sick. Heads have been ported. There was a performance 5-angle valve job. It's got Super Tech valve springs. And actually what I'll do is I'll go over actually everything that was done, what I paid for from Max Power Automotive. Completely built long block. Actually, that's how I sent it to him too. I pulled the long block out and sent it to him. This right here is a 2014 SHO transmission with 61,000 miles. I also got the carrier assembly too, out of the same donor car. Not quite sure what I'm gonna do with one of these transmissions. Basically, I want to keep my original transmission, which I pulled out and put over here. This has 76,000 miles on it. It never blew up, or I didn't have any problems with it as far as overall performance. It did start to have like a flare shift issue after I would put a new tune revision in the car. It would kind of rev up when it would shift into third gear, fourth gear, sometimes fifth gear. But it basically seemed to go away after the flash. So it seemed to be associated with just a new tune revision. Sometimes people, they tune their car and weird stuff happens, but it usually goes away. So that was one of the things I was experiencing with that. But I want to take this apart and have it built. And I'm waiting on Robesto's clutches, friction clutches. as some of you guys are. They're supposed to release them in March, April of 2022. And, you know, who knows if that's even exactly when they'll come out. So I did get I should really just break this video down into sections. So I'll talk about the engine. I'll go over the engine parts right now. All right, so let's talk about the engine. So like I said, send it to Max Power Automotive out of Lockport, Illinois. So the machine work that was done to it, it's got the CSS closed deck conversion. So that makes the block good for up to 1,000 horsepower. This is the original block and everything. Like I said, well, I'm not sure if I mentioned this, but I never had an engine problem, and I never had a transmission problem as far as anything blowing up or, really causing me to have like any bad performance or anything. So I basically lucked out on that because I was spraying a lot of nitrous. So it's the original engine. It's got the CSS closed deck conversion. There was a bore and hone engine block with torque plate, resurfaced engine block, resurfaced cylinder heads. Like I said, performance 5-angle valve job, the CNC port program, hot tank, clean all components, micro polish crankshaft. I didn't go with the Raptor crankshaft because the engine builder, Matt Pohnan, didn't seem to think it was really needed. So we just micro polished the crankshaft, and then we did the WPC treatment on the crankshaft, piston pins, and the camshafts. Parts, Ford rear main seal. It's got Manley pistons. They're extreme duty pistons. Manley rods, supposed to be good for 700 plus horsepower. It's got King rod bearings, King main bearings. Livernois is like one of the only places to get the, I think, APR head bolts. I'm not sure if I'm saying that right, but so it's got the Livernois main stud kit. It's got Boundary billet oil pump gear set with new pump, Ford OEM water pump, front main seal, valve cover gasket set, Cometic head gasket set. Like I said, SuperTech valve springs. It's got the Livernois head stud set. Also going to be doing the Walbro 525 low pressure fuel pump, which is for out of the Hellcat. Let's see. Labor was disassemble and assemble engine block, long block, and blueprint. So I bought Jordan's Gearhead Gen 3R turbos that he had ceramic coated, the hot side. Well, we also had Matt Pohnan ported the turbo hot side. Also obviously powder coated the timing cover, valve covers. So the intake manifold, that was completely ported. It was cut in half, ported. He removed like a ½ inch or so of the intake runners on the inside of the intake. He said it should be good for maybe like a higher max RPM. Also, I did direct port, ProMeth direct port methanol injection with 2.0 gallons per hour nozzles, which I think is about 125 cc's per cylinder. I don't have the intake manifold yet. It's all done, but so what Matt still hasn't sent me is the intake manifold, the turbos, and I bought a used 2013 and up fuel basket for the low pressure fuel pump, so I could do the Walbro 525 modification to it. I originally bought a new 2010, 2012 fuel bucket, but it was a little bit different than the 2013 and up. So I decided just to go with that. I bought a used one. So I'm waiting on that stuff. So all those things cost me just under 11 grand. That's not including shipping the engine there and shipping it back. So let's talk about the transmission. So like I said, I wanted to keep my original transmission, you know, have that be the bread and butter, built. I think there's like some sort of a snap ring mod that can be done, can send parts out to have them WPC treated to make them stronger. You know, they'll have less friction, and hopefully rubest those clutches. And I have the gearhead torque converter, which required me to, because I have a 4-bolt torque converter here, that means my flex plate or the flywheel is a 4-bolt. So I had to get a 2013 and up 3-bolt flex plate. Just ordered that right off Tasca. I got a brand new PTU. Aaron Schwartz made this brace for it. I never actually had a problem with the original. This is the original, other than it had a, you know, it was leaking past the seal here. I mean, it's always leaked since I bought it. I've changed this fluid so many times. That's one of the things that I think people don't take in consideration is the maintenance. I mean, I just changed the crap out of all the fluids, like PTU, RDU, transmission fluid, drain and fills, like way overboard. In the last 8,000 miles or so, I've driven the car. I've probably changed those things like every 1500 to 2,000 miles. Sometimes even more than that. And so the drive shafts is here. I took the my original RDU out, or they call it the carrier assembly if you want to buy a used one or a new one. If you look for RDU, it's like you don't find anything. So this is it right here. I bought the AKD viscous coupler and friction clutches for the RDU. I sent him out the front diff, or the diff portion of it. He sent me back like the coupler, but he didn't send me back like the housing. And he said that the magnet is different for the 10, 12, is different than the 13 and up. And I believe that's what he used to design it. So I guess he said my magnet's not going to work. So that's why I got a used 2014 carrier assembly, so could do something with that. I mean, it was only like 175 bucks. This transmission was 61,000 miles I got for just over 500. And then shipping to me, like overall I paid just under 900 bucks. That's with shipping for these two items. That's not that bad. So I'm not sure if I want to just throw this transmission in my car. I'm going to have the car towed, I believe, to Ford. And then I'm going to have to flash, you know, without starting the car. So if I, you know, I'm going to need a special tune to start the car, which is fine. But when I get to the dealership, I'm going to have to leave it, you know, off and flash to stock. And then without starting it, have them, you know, do their little update with the strategy from the transmission. And then without starting it, flash it back to my other tune. And then I should be able to drive it without any problems. But it's not something that I can just take this transmission and put it in the car and then just drive it. Like, it has to be, the PCM has to be flashed. So I'm not sure if I want to just throw this in there, because I would have to assume that my transmission, after all the drag strip passes that I made with this car, and like I said, it started to do some kind of a weird like flare shift thing. I'd have to assume that the clutches in this are way better than mine. Now, I'm just not sure if I want to take this transmission and leave it as is and just throw it in the car. Like, I should probably do like a rebuild kit or something, freshen it up. But the idea is that I got this spare so I can build one and still use one. And, whatever I use in the meantime, ultimately, I don't really care if it blows up because I'm going to be building the other one. I just want it to last, a little while. So I'm not 100% sure what I'm going to do with that. So let's talk about suspension. So I decided to get rid of the H&R lowering springs and the stock struts. I basically took everything off the front of the car so I could get the transmission out. But yeah, so I had a problem with one of my control arms taking a knuckle off last year. I basically stripped, the crap out of the end of this bolt here. So I decided just to get new control arms. So I'm gonna have new control arms. And so for suspension, I ended up getting the Airlift 3P management with a tank and just one compressor for now. And I had to get Airlift doesn't make struts for the Taurus, but AirTech does. So in the basement, I got boxes of parts, and I basically am, I just want to figure out what I'm going to do with the transmission before I put the axles back in, put the PTU back in, and then I'll start doing the suspension. Pretty excited about that. It should look pretty good. All slammed down to the ground. And towards the end of last year, I hit something in the road, and my front splitter caught it, and it basically, here's my front bumper right here, ripped a chunk out of the corner, right there, and it broke my chin spoiler in half. So I'm gonna get that fixed. So one of the benefits of air suspension, obviously, I can raise it up. So if I anticipate some sort of weird angle of pavement or something crazy in the road, hopefully I can catch it, but I'll be able to raise the car up and avoid hitting anything. But for the track, I'd like to slam it down probably lower than I would normally drive it on the street, but not too low, obviously. But then obviously when I park it, slam it right down, it should look really good. I didn't get the, so White Line makes a rear sway bar. I did not decide to get that. There's been some people that with H&R springs that I think might have ran into an issue with clearance. So I think if I have bags on the car and I slam it down, I don't know if I'll have a clearance issue. Obviously, I think I'd have more of an issue than someone else with just lowering springs. So I'm not gonna bother with that, at least right now. So for the AirTech struts, so with the 2010 knuckle, the strut slides into here, and the AirTech struts are basically set up for a 13 and up steering knuckle. So I had to, I wasn't going to return the the air suspension. So, and I wasn't going to bother trying to take these old wheel bearings out. The wheel bearing hub assembly. So I got 13 and up steering knuckles, and these rotors actually are they're R1 rotors, but they're from Jordan's car, so they're a little bit bigger than the stock the 2010 to 2012 rotors, which is fine because I'm running these Willwood super light 4-piston calipers up front with the Aaron Schwartz brackets and everything. So I'm definitely excited to have that on the car. In the rear, it's just a regular, those are Jordan's calipers in the rear. I'm gonna have to figure out what I want to do for caliper color. Since I have, you know, candy purple basically. I don't know if I want to do it purple or not sure. As you can see, these crazy 2-inch wheel spacers. So I kind of went maybe a little overboard, but I'll show you my wheels and tires. And basically I have all these parts downstairs in the basement. Kind of took over the basement with my car parts. This right here is all the bins of my engine parts. My intercooler. Got my downpipes right here. Another box of engine parts. Gonna have to get a new filter. My buddy helped me take my motor out, and he was a little ambitious and got right to it before I showed up, so he crimpled my filter. So I mean, I can't have that. You know, other guys might look at it and be like, that's not that bad, but I don't know, maybe I'm like anal retentive, but it has to be perfect. So I'm gonna get a new one. This is the air suspension here. Oh no, this is the 2013 and up knuckles. That's the airlift 3P over there. That's the tank. I got the AirTech struts. So what I did for wheels, I believe these are AR 924 Crossfire American Racing wheels. They're really light. These are 20 by 10 and a half. My previous wheels were 20 by 9 and a half. I really love the look of these. I mean, they're not, you know, I wish they were a little bit more concave. But you know, with the 2-inch spacers. And the reason I went this wide is because I got clinched 2.7-inch universal fender flares. So I ended up going with, let's see if you can see it on here. These are the rear tires. So in the rear, you know, we don't get much traction. Anyways, they're 315 3520s. These are Nitto, what is this? The NT555 GT tires. These tires are a little heavy. I think they're like 34 pounds, maybe even 35. But the wheels 20 by 10 and a half, they're like just under 25 pounds. It's pretty light for 10 and a halves. In the front tires are Nitto NT05R drag radials. These things are sick. So that is suspension and tires. Here's the other rest of the car parts. I got some spare tires. Bunch of parts in here. The gearhead torque converters in here. So for fueling, I got XDI 2000cc injectors. I have, where is it? So in this box right here is the XDI 60. The last thing that I ran was XDI Evo high pressure fuel pump. So XDI 2000cc injectors, XDI 60 high pressure fuel pump, and I'm going to use the Walbro 525 low pressure fuel pump. So I should be able to run E85 no problem. So to go along with the ported intake manifold, I got a larger throttle body from BBK. Some other stuff here, but nothing crazy. Also, obviously with fueling, it's going to be 100% meth. Alky control. only way to go. So a new pump is 165, but if I send in this pump, it's only 85 for a rebuild, I believe. So every 3 years, basically, you should get your pump rebuilt or buy a new one. So what I did last time, because it's been about 5 years, so I already went through one pump, never had any issues whatsoever. So I decided to just buy a brand new one. So now I can send out, you know, this one, have it rebuilt, and still have one on the car, basically. But now I'm at the point where I almost should rebuild both of them. But like I said, it's only 85 bucks. Those are the, actually those are the stock injectors. The XDI ones are in a tote. So the exterior, let's talk about the exterior. You know, we talked about the wider wheels. So let's look at the other side of the car. Also the custom crash bar that Jordan Christensen made me. Give it a lot more room up front. So these fender flares, they're pretty sick, but they're, maybe I should have got a little bit smaller ones, because, you know, I gotta go with a, I tried just putting the 20 by 10.5 on there to see, you know, how it looked. And I had to go way out. That's why I had to get the 2-inch spacers. So, you know, it sits flush. These are just Cleco pins, just holding it in place. I did have to drill a 1/8 inch hole, but I kind of did the process in the wrong order. So really I should have, you know, well, I wasn't sure what I was doing with suspension. So, but really what you should do is put your wheels on the car, you know, have the suspension wherever it's going to be. Then you would put this on here and then just kind of trace where it is. And then you would actually cut, you know, I haven't cut anything yet, but you got to cut the fender. And because what I was finding, because I made these pilot holes, you know, this thing doesn't sit on there super flush. But I guess once I cut the actual fender, it's going to take a lot of tension off of this sheet metal, and it should sit flush after that, like no problem. So I was actually kind of worried about that, but a friend of mine was like, well, you know, once you cut the fenders, it's going to be a lot more pliable, because it's wicked, you know, it's going to lose some of that rigidity, so it should be fine. And then from Aaron Schwartz's website, I also got these race louvers, and I had to get these fender louvers because it looks so sick. Like, trust me, once you see this car done, I mean, it's just going to be so badass. I mean, I am going to keep the fender liner. I'm just going to have to cut a section out of it and put in some like random mesh or something, because it's not going to be as functional, like, you know, if I didn't have a hole there. And the best thing to do would really be to have no fender liners, but I don't know how that's going to work with the front bumper, because it ties into the fender liner and just kind of makes everything a lot more solid in the front. So I think I'm going to have to keep that. But yeah, you know, basically all these parts right here, the knuckles, the suspension, control arms, like none of that's going back on the car. And I also need to, I got these three hood vents from Race Louvers as well. So the next thing I'm gonna do, since I don't have anything in the engine bay, I'm gonna cut these, cut the holes out for them, install them. I'm probably putting this on here wrong, but basically what you want to do is wherever the radiator is, you want this to be like 2 inches back from that. So I'm gonna have to put the core support back on and just kind of get an idea where that's gonna be. Actually, it's a good point I brought that up, because, you know, I don't see myself putting this original shitty looking radiator back on. I'll probably just buy a new one. That's like under 200 bucks for a new one. So it's gonna have some hood vents on there. Obviously, they're probably not gonna be exactly where I just put them on there, but I gotta clean up. I use a jigsaw on this. So I drilled each corner so I could get the blade in there and then just connected the dots. But it's not 100% straight. So I bought a Dremel kit. I'm just gonna take a little bit off of this all the way around. I also wanna do a wrap on the car. We'll see how far we get with all that stuff, but you know, one of the a curse of this build taking as long as it is taking is that it's more affordable to keep adding shit. Like if I had a deadline and it's like, oh shit, I gotta get this car together, you know, it'd be together already. And well, now that I have the motor, like the motor would have already been in it. But now it's like, well, if I'm gonna do this, then I should do that. And then if I do that, then I should do this. And it's just a rabbit hole. And when it's done, it's not gonna be done. I mean, like, when is it ever gonna be done? Probably never. So in the interior is like, you know, it's gutted. I'm gonna clean this stuff up a bit. I mean, I might just put the front door cards back on, the OEM door cards, because they don't weigh that much and it makes it look so much better. But in the rear, I'll keep those off and run some sort of door card and we'll go from there. I really, at this point, with my fastest time being 11.063 at 1:23, I'm so close to a 10, and I think at my track, if it stays open, I heard New England Dragway might close, but I think it's like a 10.8 or something, or 130 miles per hour. You know, whichever one. So if I go faster than that or quicker than that, I'm gonna need a roll cage. So I might just do the roll cage now. Do like a 6-point cage or something. Now's the time to do it. I mean, there's no interior. I'll probably keep my, it'd be nice to do some sort of like a sunroof delete. I never used the freaking thing, but most likely I'm gonna keep the headliner in, all the stuff in. Probably keep the dash all in. But some of this other stuff, obviously I need to paint these metal brackets just sitting in here. They're all like corroding and shit. It looks like shit. But I would like to clean this up on the interior. I don't really see myself putting any of the interior back in the car, so I should probably part ways with all the interior pieces and sell them or get rid of them or something. This car is just going to be whatever it is. I don't see myself selling it anytime soon, but if I do, I think, you know, it's going to be a purpose-built car. Like, some enthusiast will want to buy it. You know, if I ever want to get rid of it, I think I'm not going to have a problem. But whatever, I don't really even care about that. So I think I covered everything. The exhaust, I'm gonna put the exhaust on, leave it on. I'm not sure, I mean, I'd love to have it made out of titanium, so it's really, really light. Or maybe just weld, maybe just like put the tips on the car, so it looks like it has an exhaust, and just run an open downpipe. And like, you know, these welds they're horrible. I mean, these welds are absolute shit. You know, and like this bend right here, I mean, he like distorted the diameter of the exhaust. Like, it's ridiculous. I'm not very happy with how my exhaust came out. It's all stainless. And like, I didn't know, like I kind of assumed that if your whole exhaust was stainless, that they were gonna like TIG weld it. And that definitely was not the case. And they didn't even like say anything about it. Then ask me if I wanted it TIG welded, or maybe they can't even do it. Because like, these welds are caca. It seems so stupid to me. Why would you weld it like that and have them like all the welds corroding and the rest of it is all stainless? It's like retarded. But that's where I'm at right now. You know, I'm gonna share some more videos. I'm gonna do a video of me cutting the hood vents in. When I get the transmission on, you know, back in, and I start putting together the air suspension, that's gonna be pretty cool. And I think that's pretty much it. I got this 3M window weld. So I'm gonna fill in the top transmission mount. I did buy a new one, but I guess it's, you know, it's kind of a cheap new one. It's not OEM. But I'm just gonna fill this whole thing in with that window weld. Personally, I don't care for, like, if it vibrates a little bit more, like, I don't care. Because the original one obviously is spent. I never got any false knock with it though, so yeah, that's it for now. Thanks for watching, and keep an eye out for more videos.